And then the
Yeah,
actual and we can get into this. Let's get into this. We're talking. How come? There's no discussion about what were to happen if? Okay, so this is about the kids, right? This is about the kids and the need, and the onus is on Israel to stop. What if Hamas said, "Here are the hostages. It's about the kids. It's about the women. It's about enough people have died. We get it. Okay, we're not going to do this anymore. We've been firing rockets at you. Here's your hostages. Leave." They did that. Israel has nothing to stand on, zero, because now you're shooting at innocent people,
yeah.
you know, and that could end that. If you want to do it for the kids, give the hostages back. Get a dialogue going.
Well, let's be realistic. Hamas is
It's
not
indoctrination, it's ego.
what's ego, and it's also and I'm not going to get into the whole religious side of it, but it's if you feel like you're serving a God-given purpose,
That's true.
um, these deaths are meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm fighting for God,
Mm-hmm.
that kid dying is worth it because God's asking me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Doing God's
it's
work.
that, yeah, and that's what's kind of the issue is like there is a difference between like Hamas and Palestinians. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
Hamas, fucking terrorist group that's been ruling the Gaza Strip, sure, but not everyone in Gaza, the majority, even like Hamas. I know they elected them decades ago, but like they're not Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right. Hamas could easily make Israel look like the dickhole by just returning the hostages and being like, all right, cool, we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, Hamas has made it a point going, we don't give a fuck. We're going to keep doing this shit because we want Israel gone.
Mm-hmm. There is
And
no negotiating, and that's why this keeps going on.
yeah. Now, on the flip side, like I said, because I'm a nah, I don't want to say pro-Palestine is very simple and kind of misleading in the words, but I think Israel is also an asshole. Israel is. And we could go into how the current state of Israel was founded, but to me, I have issues with it, but that was almost a century ago. It's a fucking country now.
Mm-hmm.
My dog just jumped on the door. It's a fucking country now. So the argument of should it be a country, we can have that discussion, but it's kind of useless. Like
it's a moot point.
yeah. So if I cheated on my wife 5 years ago, we can have discussions on whether or not I should have done that,
Mm-hmm.
but it happened. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like it's done. So Israel is a state, if you like it or not. I have issues with the way it was founded, but it's too late. It's too late to have that debate. It happened.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
and one side continues to have the debate. And it's like, okay, you want to keep having the debate,
and
they're
that's
getting
what
the horns, and it's like, okay,
yeah,
it
and
works for your
Mitch
people.
said this once, and I like the way he put it. He said that both things can be right.
Mm-hmm.
Do the Palestinian people have a right to exist in their homeland? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, does Israel have a right to exist? Yes. And we can also say, though, that Israel has been historically in this last century absolute dickheads to Palestine. Now we could
what's
all
the off ramp? What's
no
the
no
off
yeah.
there were a lot of treaties put there too.
Now that's all I'm going back and forth. But we could also say I don't know the story like the exact stats, but I remember there was an offer I think in the 70s
Mm-hmm.
to where Palestine, I think it was strictly Gaza. I'm not sure about the West Bank, where they would have had a lot more land and it would have been like coded in law. And in their stubbornness to want Israel gone, they said no. So now this shit continues.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things that, like, you could say Israel's an asshole while still saying, yeah, but so is Hamas. Like, I don't think there's a good guy in that situation. And unfortunately, innocent Palestinians are dying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we go back to the protests. I respect why they're protesting, but they're assholes while they're protesting. But going back to it, yeah, like absolutely anyone who says that October 7th incident was justified is a fucking asshole. That was absolutely not justified. Now, going back to it, Israel has admitted on several occasions now that they bombed innocent buildings on accident or on purpose, whatever. They've said pretty much like, yeah, shit happens. That's an asshole. Like
in the past, prior to that, they would call the Palestinians and say, "Hey, we're bombing this building. Clear it out." Does Hamas
sure.
do that when they fire their rockets? It's like,
No.
I don't
And
think
again, I'm not defending Hamas. Hamas is a piece of shit. Hamas could die. But this idea that now it's open season on Palestinians to an extent that it is, that's unacceptable in my opinion. And you could say both things. That's what I think is a bigger issue in this whole thing. Is you could say both things are right. Hamas is an asshole. Yes. Israel is also kind of acting like an asshole. You can say that, and that shouldn't be controversial. And that's kind of my opinion on it. Is both are assholes, and unfortunately, innocent people are getting hurt for it. It's kind of like centuries ago. I took a class that strictly it was Western civilizations. We studied history, I think, from like 13 or 1400 on, and how many fucking wars. I remember, like as a college student, we're reading about all these wars from like 1200 to like 1600, and all it was literally these big ass wars between European countries were because their royalty didn't like each other. That was it. It was the war of kings. This king had a problem with that king because this king fucked that king's wife. I don't know. And then all of a sudden they're sending fucking armies to kill each other because these two kings had an issue. And that's kind of the same here, I think. Like Hamas is technically ruling the Gaza, excuse me. And so that they're fucking acting like an asshole. So now Israel's leadership acts like an asshole back. In the meantime, innocent Israelis and innocent Palestinians die. And it's like, why don't you guys just call up Dana White, have a fucking UFC match between each other, and call it a day? Like
that's always been an easy solution if you could settle it, just between two people and the winner takes all. But then keep in mind, if Hamas lays down their weapons, you have a two-state solution. If Israel lays down their weapons, Israel doesn't exist.
And that's a fair point.
There's no aspect of that has any off-ramp. And that reflects how the students were approaching the protests as well. It's like, no, we have these demands. Okay, you're going to be here for 4 years if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, I like
what
that.
To do?
Well, so you kind of touched on it in our discussion here, but you mentioned it in our group chat. The kind of leftist gatekeeping on this. I personally don't think the Palestine-Israel issue should be left versus right, but somehow it is. Anyway, so Bernie Sanders, who's in America, not in the world stage, in America, pretty much as left as you can get. He came out in an interview and he was talking about what the point you just made. That because he's very much he wants a two-state solution, he wants peace, blah 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 blah. He thinks Israel is doing horrible things to Palestinians. But he even said what you said. If Hamas has said it publicly, we want to keep doing October 7th. We will continue doing this until Israel is gone. So even though he's critical of Israel, like I am, what is Israel supposed to do?
Exactly.
Just say, okay, well we'll just kind of sit back and wait then until the next one.
You're out of your mind, and it's like, okay, well at least you're going to be up front, bringing more artillery.
At least Hamas, at least you're honest.
Yeah, at least you're honest. Okay, you want the bull, you're going to get the horns. You want to F around and find out? Well, they're finding out. And that's humorous until you realize that the reason why those college protesters are in those quads is because people are dying. It's people are dying, and there is no off-ramp for that. That is not acceptable. That two countries can't get along. There can't be a coexistence. And one side wants that more than the other.
I personally think neither one of them wants it. That's my own personal. I don't have a ton of proof, but I don't think what's his name, the president of Israel,
like everybody else.
Yeah, president of Israel, Netanyahu. I would say Netanyahu. There you go. I don't think he wants peace. I think he pretends to want peace, but I don't think he wants peace. That just from little things I've read, I think it's one of those things. What
does he want from what you've read?
Because I was trying to think of an example. Okay, to divert a little bit, and I don't mean to pick on Trump, but I'm going to pick on him a little bit. So, what was that?
Poor Trump.
Poor Trump.
Well, the media's do that, and
it's so unfair.
More Trump and more Trump and more Trump, and it's like.
Well, we can talk about that in a second. But so what I was going to say is, issues with the border, cool. No one disagrees that there's an issue with the border, cool. So I forgot the senator's name. Negotiated a border bill that was endorsed by the Border Patrol Union. Good bill. I don't know the ins and outs of the bill, but it would help the border. It does all these things. Bipartisan support. And this guy is a hard conservative. I forgot the senator's name. And from what I understand, most Republicans were going to get on it. because they wanted to fix the border. Our dear friend Mr. Trump started sending out the messages like, don't get this fucking bill
Yeah,
passed.
because it's political.
Well, exactly. So I'm getting back to my point, because if they pass this bill, that would not, I mean, I don't think the border is ever going to be 100% fixed, but it would help improve the border.
Yeah, that's
so
ridiculous.
in that world, that issue is almost taken completely off the table. And that's one of Trump's main issues, is the border.
Yeah, it's going to take it away. Yeah, I'm not aware of that, but I do remember hearing of that. That's unacceptable. That is so beyond. You're playing politics. This is where you're playing politics with the lives of the American people and the lives of the state, because you think he's going to come in and clean it up. The damage has been done. And if there's bipartisan support, we need help at the border. Okay, wait, let's wait till Trump gets elected to fix it. And it's like, it's already too late.
Exactly. So that being said, I think that's similar to the Israel Prime Minister Netanyahu. I can never say his fucking name right. Bibi, right? They call him Bibi. Whatever. Him. I think it's a similar issue to where if this conflict goes on, he has something to run on. I can protect you. I can keep you safe. Now that's kind of a conspiracy theorist mindset, but that's kind of the vibe I get from him when I've read, like, I listen to his interviews, is that this is something that he feigns to want to fix, but in reality he wants the issue. That way he has something to run on and something to bring to the people. It could be. It's not irrational.
How he described Hamas and that there's no two-state solution. He's not wrong then, because there is no negotiating part.
No, I'm not saying he's wrong in that regard. But I think if it comes to, like, actually, because let's be real, with the technology they have, Israel doesn't have to fucking carpet bomb Gaza. All they really have to do is set up defenses.
Well,
defend themselves.
Kind of stop the genocide. If Israel wanted genocide, they'd have it. It would not be. It would be very quick. That's hilarious. It's like, stop the genocide. It's like, that's not what genocide means.
This is like diet genocide, to put it darkly. But in reality, so if someone, let's say someone, a bunch of people came and trashed my house. They broke in, they stole some shit, they trashed it. And I'm like, fuck. So I get new locks, I do all that stuff, I buy guns. And so then now, every night, I have a new alarm. As soon as that motion sensor gets up, I have my gun in hand and I'm looking out my windows. Or I go out in the street looking for the people who broke in my house. I feel like in that situation, that metaphor, Israel is out in the streets looking for who broke in their house. When in reality, instead of accidentally or intentionally, that's a debate, hurting innocent people, they could have their gun ready looking out the window. While trying to, I think someone said, like, almost like special ops trying to take out Hamas. But I think the bombings trying to get Hamas is just killing people that don't need to be killed.
Well, they're also trying to undo an infrastructure that was put in place with tunnels. They knew they had to.
There's that
urban environment. That's what they're trying to clean out too. And it's like, okay, if you want to hit the bull, we'll come after you, no problem. And they know that, and this is an entire infrastructure centered around those dead babies, centered around those dead kids and those dead women. They can have military targets, but they choose not to. They choose to fight a guerrilla war because they know what world reaction, what the outrage is going to be. And Israel does attempt to do damage control. It's still bad, though. It is still difficult on the eyes. But that's the enemy. That's the nature of the enemy.
Yeah, I guess someone put it, because I had different, like, I go back and forth in my mind. Someone put it in perspective for me, and this is a completely unrealistic hypothetical to preface. If, let's say, again, completely unrealistic, the KKK went into Mexico and killed a bunch of people and then came back to America. Would we be okay with Mexico now bombing churches because they think the KKK is there? Again, there's a lot of false equivalencies, I understand.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of false equivalencies, don't get me wrong. But if Mexico or whatever country that the KKK went and did some horrible shit in started coming in, like, started attacking American buildings, American people, innocent Americans dying now because these people were after the KKK. It's one of those things like it's again false equivalencies across.
Yeah,
The
it's
point
well, it's
being,
hard to differentiate because Hamas is not only a governing body, but it's also a militant organization.
no, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's a
Go
lot of false
after government,
equivalencies. Yeah.
and if it's intertwined, there's no good answer. But then when your population is in danger, what choice do you have? The table's always been there for negotiation. You want to play games and take hostages? Fair enough. Fair enough. We're gonna treat it like it. You know?
Well,
Play that
so
way. We'll play that way.
yeah, perfect example was 9/11, right? So we go to Afghanistan, and we specifically were going after Al Qaeda and the Taliban. We weren't going after regular Afghanistanis. Afghanis? What is it? It's like the opposite episode. Afghanistan civilians. We weren't going after them. Granted, collateral damage, it's awful, it happens. But generally speaking, just going straight after the ruling class of that country and the Al Qaeda who they supported. I don't think Israel is being as considerate. I think they're just kind of bombing what they think they could bomb, and they don't really give a shit.
Mhm.
Which you could justify that, you can't, whatever. And I personally have a problem with that. I think I've always been take the bigger road kind of people. I'm not saying let these motherfuckers bomb you or fucking do more October 7th. I'm not saying that. But a little bit more consideration for the innocent people there, I think is warranted.
You said something previously. They want to have more October 7th.
No, I agree. I think they should go after Hamas.
How are you being an a-hole if that's explicit? There's no a-hole about it. You want to play that game? This is your game. This is your game.
So here's what I'm countering. So Hamas killed innocent people.
Mm-hmm.
So that justifies the deaths of more innocent people.
It doesn't. Well, justify is an odd word.
But with respect, that
Israel's killing innocent people.
Yes.
But that being said, Hamas uses human shields.
And I get that. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying, from what I understood what you said, was Hamas fucked around, and now they're finding out. But
and there's a propensity that this is going to keep going.
Sure, I agree. And I think Hamas should be taken down. But the finding out part of that is innocent Palestinians dying. Mm-hmm. When Hamas doesn't give a fuck.
Okay. Well,
what I'm saying is
Palestinian, how many family members you have to lose to say they're over there?
That's a fair point.
They're over there. I'm tired of this shit. I've lost more than half my family. They're over there. Let me know if you need help.
I 100% agree. But that being said, that still doesn't negate what I'm saying, is that Israel could still be more considerate about innocent lives.
But there's no consideration if there's going to be what's to consider if there is no table to visit, if there's going to be more October 7th. I don't see where that goes. What are you considering?
So considering killing innocent people, like I think
and there's going to be a propensity of that in the future.
So what I'm hearing from you is because Hamas, a dickhole organization, killed innocent Israelis and they said, we're not going to stop, it makes it okay for Israel to kill innocent Palestinians. I don't think that's okay. Well, I completely disagree with that. I'm sorry?
What choice does Israel have then? There's got to be an off-ramp. What's the off-ramp?
Israel has help from the West, right? If you like it or don't like it, they have help. Better intel. Again, putting up defensive, I don't know the word.
Yeah, that's being done. Done.
So being on the defense and not taking hasty actions that were going to get innocent people killed. They don't have to bomb buildings. They don't have to. They could use special ops to find these people, send in spies. There's a lot of different options.
All of that has been done in the past too.
Sure, and keep doing it. So should we try to keep innocent people alive by taking a little longer, or be hasty and kill tons of innocent people? I think life is precious and steps should be taken so that innocent people don't die.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I don't think it's justified.
What did you just say? But then again, you're arguing with a religion that, you feel that way. Do they feel that way because they're doing God's work?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how Hamas feels. I'm not Hamas. Hamas are dickholes. I'm not a dickhole. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Israel should be one either, even though it is.
Well, there's got to be an off-ramp. There's always been an open table and always been an open channel that's not been used and not been leveraged.
I agree.
And there's only so many rockets that you're going to take The Iron Dome takes care of them. Another strategy was lighting balloons on fire and sending them. Now you got arson going on over there. There's been terrorist acts and it's ongoing and it's not stopping. And then there's the final straw of not being able to protect your citizenry. And so when that happens, I don't want that solution. But if that's the solution that's being left, if that's the only response that has any sort of efficacy, yeah, we're talking efficacy here. This is working. How many Palestinian terrorist attacks have there been since there's been military mobilization into Gaza, into Palestine?
Is it working though? Is it working though?
Well, peace didn't work either. Peace didn't work. Peace. Having defensive zones didn't work.
So I think
rocket attacks.
I'm hoping that we're kind of arguing two different points.
I think we are.
Because I agree that Israel has the right to defend itself, and Israel should seek out Hamas and kill and take.
That's what's been going on.
Yes, but at the lack of consideration for innocent life.
Well, they've had that consideration for life. What good did it do them? It got their citizens kidnapped.
So change gears. I agree. Go on the offense. Go after Hamas. But I still think both things can be right. You can still go after Hamas, seek them out, try to find them without just bombing people with no regard.
And if you have no choice, if human shields are being used.
Yes, I still think that there's steps that can be taken to avoid the human shields. But another step to this too, which I remember reading about this.
Those steps to avoid. Those people are being used as human shields.
So, okay, let's go metaphor. You have me and you. We're seeking out Hamas. Mm-hmm. And Hamas, Mr. Hamas, the guy we're seeking out, is right there. We have guns. We take aim. He pulls an innocent woman and a kid up in front of him. Are you and I shooting that innocent woman and kid to kill that guy? Or are we holding off until we get a better shot?
Well, is killing that man is killing two personnel? How many lives? What's the benefit? How many lives will be saved because there's collateral damage and the primary target is neutralized? How many lives are going to be saved?
Those are things to weigh. I'll give you that. Those are things to weigh. Or we start talking. Hey, Mike, flank left, I'll flank right. He can't block both sides. There's options, right? We don't have to shoot through them. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying is that the disregard for human life, I don't agree with. But on top of that, which I think we can agree with, the more innocent lives taken, the more people you're pissing off. And so perfect metaphor. We were talking about the protesters, how they might have a good objective, but by acting like assholes, people are going to lose the message, right? So Israel has a good motivation. They want to protect their citizens from terrorist attacks. They want to kill Hamas. The more innocent lives taken, the more they're going to radicalize other people in the Middle East. Iran's already pissed. And it's going to get worse. Just because something's already done.
Israel would have been gone. There's been coalitions to destroy Israel.
Sure.
Fail.
That's irrelevant to this conversation.
But that's been going on. It's like, well, what if that's been done?
But
different verse. That's why we're at the point we're at now, because none of that worked.
And I get that. But what we're saying then is, so things are bad and they got worse and they got worse. They continue to get worse. So let's just keep making it worse. Or we can try to make it better. And you're saying, let's just keep making it worse.
Well, there is no better, though.
There's steps that can be taken, just no one wants to take them, Hamas included. Mm-hmm. That no one wants to take them. For ego, for whatever. There are steps that can be taken. But no one wants to take them. That's why I don't think there's a good guy here except for the innocent people who are dying. Mm-hmm. I'm for making things better.
That sucks. I don't want innocent people to die. If it were, and it's really easy for me to say, and if there's an Arabic brotherhood, sisterhood, why aren't other countries stepping up and say, okay, we got a segment of land, we're going to take care of you. If you're not a combatant, get out of that area.
That's a fair point.
In Israel.
That's a fair point. And even if it's Israel,
aid can be poured into that neutral zone.
I think that's actually a fucking fair point. I think there's plenty of space down there. Even I heard somebody say this. I forgot who it was.
There's a reason why that's not been,
Well,
because the Palestinians are pawns.
No, I 100% agree with that. 100%. But I heard someone, and granted, this is one of those kind of unrealistic things, like hype. So the Gaza Strip's what, like 25 miles long?
I'm not. I don't know.
It's not big. My point. It's not big. It's like my commute every day is pretty much the size of fucking Gaza.
Uh-huh.
So hypothetically, if the West, even another Middle Eastern country, whoever, mobilize and they're like, "Hey, innocent Gazans, come this way. You're going to pass through this gate. We're going to pat you down, make sure you have 0 weapons on you, and we're going to get you to safety. That way, no one's getting through this gate with weapons. So if you're Hamas, you can come through, but you're going to be fucked because you have no gun."
Mhm.
And then level Gaza.
And at the beginning of that conflict, I mean, they were letting humanitarian aid in, but then there were oxygen pumps going in that were trying to get water pumps so that the tunnels that were this is a guerrilla warfare,
Sure.
Because it is interestingly David and Goliath, but the religions are switched. So it's good. This is the result of a guerrilla war. This is all calculated. This has all been figured out, and there's no good way out of it.
I agree with that.
I agree 110%. The longer it goes, it does not favor Israel. Then again, what option do they have? Defense, they've been doing that. And it didn't work.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
And it doesn't, and we can come up with decision this, solution that, until they sit down, until there's an agreement, and until there's a freaking notion of an agreement. We're two guys in a bar,
Well, I agree. I agree with that. In the back of my head, I can't help but think like, hey, I'm not saying it's a good thing. America's done this shit before. Why don't we just go in and fucking take Hamas out and put a new puppet government in? We've done it before.
Yeah, we've done it before.
I'm kind of being sarcastic, but
not being positive.
Yeah, I'm being sarcastic, but yeah, it's a shit situation.
It is. And yeah, it's not going to be solved by having a protest nor talking about it for an hour.
Well, let me ask you something, Eddie.
History and everything.
Let me ask you something, Eddie. Has Israel tried giving Hamas a Pepsi?
The table's always been open.
No, yeah.
That's the frustrating thing. And it's like, okay, let's work on one side says let's work on a 2-state solution. We're neighbors. That's not going to change. The other side says, I want to kill you. That narrows the possibilities down.
No, like I think I alluded to it. Even Bernie Sanders, hard leftist, who is very much pro-Palestine, he's also like pro-Israel. Even he said, he's like, what can you do if you have an organization who said they're not going to stop? Mm-hmm. It's like literally the terrorist complex or whatever. If you have a terrorist who's willing to die, mm-hmm. How do you stop that terrorist other than death? Mm-hmm. It's tough. I get it. Anyway, do we want to call it there? Or do we want to take another topic?
Yeah, let's call it there. It's really interesting. And after all that passion, what gets solved? It's like, okay, you need to return the hostages. The bombing needs to stop. And until any of that happens, we're blowing as much steam as the kids on campus. It's just, you can still go to class by listening to us,
And we're not disrupting shit. We're not stopping traffic.
We're not disrupting it. You can turn this off anytime you like. At some point, I didn't like that. You can even re-edit it, and here's the good parts that I like. You can do that too. But it's kind of taking it full circle. It's just I don't think I'm being just kind of the old man get off my lawn to say, and this is a small segment, and this is the way Biden's treating it. You've got 60 colleges across the nation, and it's clickbait.
100%.
People making the most noise. It got me to stay up and watch, really late because I was like, okay, here it goes. And I'm glad it was a nothing burger. I'm glad it was just really peaceful. Kids threw up their hands. It's like, okay, this is real now. These aren't some punks who just, decide who got trolled, and even a part of that protest. This is amazing because what made the news, it was 2 groups trolling, a handful of people compared to this huge protest movement, peaceful, just trolling each other, and then that makes the news, And then what makes the news in Colombia, anarchists, people who aren't students, who have a record going into Colombia and doing vandalism. And then everybody says, yeah, this has got to stop. It's interesting because if you run a movement, there has to be governance of that. You had to get into that liberated part of UCLA. In order to do that, you had to know somebody in there in the first place. So there needs to be governance. I don't know. There's a lot of advantages that can be taken, and I feel that uh, their intentions are good. Their intentions are good. You have the right to protest. You have the right to protest peacefully. Because what's the opposite of peace? You know, I'm once I get through that through my head. I don't like what they're saying. I disagree with what they're saying, but good on them. They have the right to say it. And if you want to listen to somebody or don't want to listen to somebody, that's your ignorance.
Yeah.
But it's a very difficult stance. And ideally, you can have an instance where you do sit down and talk and you don't scream at each other. And that's not what's going on. That is not what is going on, either in the protest camp nor in college debate anymore.
Well, that's what Mitch and I mentioned at one time we were talking, and we'll discuss this and then we'll call it. A couple things. A podcaster I listened to said this, and I said it to Mitch, and Mitch was like, "Oh, fucking 100%." Is simply the lack of critical thinking and even media literacy. And the podcaster I listened to, he suggested that so you have your core areas of study, right? You have like history or social studies if you're in elementary school, math, science, English, etc. His argument is philosophy should be a part of the core, to where when you're in middle school, you start learning critical thinking, media literacy, etc., etc. Because even I joke around about it, how I almost minored in philosophy in college, but I remember I took a class in college where literally the entire class was strictly about how to argue. I forgot the term for it. It was like critical thinking and argument. I forgot what it was, but it was strictly that's what the class was about. You learned about fallacies. You learned about different techniques to argue. You learned how to point out different things if people are arguing in bad faith. And it was very interesting. One of the best classes I've ever taken. I still apply things from that class years later. Like it changed the way I looked at things. And there's that alone. There's not enough of that. Because not only do you make arguments more honest, but you make them in good faith. Because there's nothing worse than like a bad faith argument where you're not there to actually accomplish something. You're there to yell your point out, and you don't care what they had to say.
That's what it feels like the protests have gotten to.
That's what you mentioned earlier too. That's what you mentioned earlier. The one person who was like, "No, what you're saying is wrong. Fuck you." Like I'm not happy.
It wasn't the exception either. That's the scary part. That's the part that how do you adjust that thinking? How do you educate that thinking in an institution of higher learning? It's become, and this has been going on. We're not critically thinking anymore. That critical thought has gone out the window. We're teaching indoctrinations. Here's what to think. Here's how to think it. Period. That's dangerous. And universities have allowed it to go on. And so it's full circle, baby. When you have protests that don't listen, you taught us to be this way. We're doing what you said. The movement is so important. We're going to go to your house during the private law school graduation and disrupt it because kids are dying. Did you see that one? Please tell me you did.
I haven't really been following the protests, to be honest.
You see Berkeley, the dean of the law school, had a private function at their house.
And they showed up.
House. Somebody takes out a Mr. Microphone. Yes, we're all graduating here. This is the dean of the law school graduating other attorneys. You know, well, up until people with law educations who have yet to take the bar, presumably. Sure. You know, and it's on their property, and it's like, no, leave, and that's virtue signaling. Why? Because her pulling out her Mr. Microphone in the middle of a private ceremony for graduates. Yeah.
If it's private property, it's unlawful too. So,
well, yeah, trespassing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. No, yeah. So that's
we have more of that to look forward to, and it's wonderful because it's at Berkeley, right? It's power to the people, screw the man, and it's okay until it's your house, and it was literally their house.
Sure. No, but I was gonna say
that way.
I was gonna say there's been times where I've had discussions with people where I have a strong conviction and they present facts, not an opinion, facts. And I'm the first to admit it's a hard pill to swallow when you're faced with a fact that you are incorrect. Like I think for the most part, you and I just now we disagreed, but it was mainly a disagreement about opinion. But if you brought out numbers and you're like, well, see, this person reported this, I don't know, CIA had this number, CNN reported this, like, Mike, you're wrong. It's a tough pill to swallow. And that's part of critical thinking as well, is to just
Very
knowing
much
how to
so.
handle that and realize that it's not a personal thing.
Mhm.
You're not stupid for being
There's
proven
new
wrong.
data.
Yeah.
Absorb that new data. That's called intelligence.
Yeah.
That's why the Bible and the Quran, they don't change. Science does. Why? Because there's more data. You
That.
know? So that's the difference between indoctrination and critical thinking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's okay to have indoctrination as long as you agree with it. When you disagree with it, no.
That's what we're all equal, Eddie, but some of us are more equal.
Exactly. Thank you, George Orwell.
All right, let's call it there before we go on another tangent.
All right. Thank you for staying around this long,
Yep.
folks.
And then
And
I know we haven't recorded in a while. I personally would like to start recording again because it scratches my creative itch. So perhaps if more things come up, we'll be motivated to record some more.
yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, Eddie. Last word.
Thank you. Don't be indoctrinated. Think critically. Get both sides of the argument before you make your decision.
There you go.
Recording stopped. Stop recording. There we go.